She stood there barefoot, on the deck of a luxurious yacht, the salty breeze brushing against her face as the murmurs of laughter and applause echoed all around her. A silk cloth was tied gently across her eyes, but her heart could feel everything: the whispers, the stares, the tension thick in the air. Her hands, still loosely wrapped in rope from a cruel journey she never asked for, trembled ever so slightly. She was just 19, blind since birth, and until yesterday, she was just a poor girl selling handmade bracelets by the roadside. Today, she was being introduced to the world as the wife of a billionaire. The man who held her hand was Marcus Kane. Powerful, sharp, and obscenely rich, Marcus was known for his ruthless business deals and cold demeanor. But as he stood beside her, guiding her gently across the deck, there was a softness in his touch that surprised even his closest friends. Nobody could understand why a man like Marcus, who could have anyone, do anything, would choose to marry a poor, blind girl from the slums. But there she was, standing next to him, dressed in a worn-out, tattered gown, looking completely out of place amidst the glamour. What no one knew was that Marcus didn't buy her to save her. Not at first. Just a week ago, Amara was struggling to survive. After losing both her parents to illness, she had no one. The landlord had kicked her out of the little shack she called home. She wandered the streets, sleeping in corners, relying on her sharp senses and kind strangers to get through each day. That's when she was spotted by a man in a black car, Marcus's assistant. He had been sent to find a woman, not just any woman, but one who had nothing. Someone who wouldn't ask questions. Someone no one would miss. It was supposed to be a contract marriage. Marcus had made a deal with a foreign investor who believed in traditional, family-oriented values. In order to seal a billion-dollar merger, Marcus needed a wife. Quickly. But he didn't want attachments. He wanted control. A marriage on paper. Nothing more. So when Amara was brought to him, he saw the perfect opportunity. She was quiet, innocent, and couldn't see, meaning in his mind, she wouldn't get in his way. But from the very first moment he heard her speak, something shifted. Her voice was soft but steady. Even in her brokenness, she held herself with dignity. She didn't cry or beg. She simply asked, "What do you need from me?" There was no greed in her, no manipulation, just calm acceptance. And that intrigued Marcus more than he cared to admit. He took her in, gave her food, clean clothes, and a room in his mansion. She never complained, never demanded. Instead, she listened. She laughed when the housekeeper told her stories. She hummed softly as she folded her own clothes. Slowly, the staff began to love her. And without realizing it, so did Marcus. But he didn't say it. He couldn't. Not when everything about their relationship was built on a transaction. The wedding was held on his yacht, elegant, private, and far away from curious eyes. Amara didn't understand why they had to get married so suddenly. She couldn't see the lights, the flowers, or the glittering ocean. All she could do was feel, and she felt fear. When the priest asked if she took Marcus as her husband, she hesitated for just a second before whispering yes, because deep down, she hoped this might be her chance. Not just at survival, but maybe, just maybe, at belonging somewhere. After the ceremony, when the guests had gone and the cameras stopped clicking, Marcus sat beside her, his jacket draped over her shoulders. "You're not just a pawn," he said quietly. She turned toward his voice. "Then what am I?" He didn't answer. He couldn't. Over the next few weeks, life in the mansion changed. Amara brought light into a place that had always felt cold. She started learning to navigate the hallways, memorizing every step. She spent hours in the garden, feeling the sun on her face. She'd sit in the library, running her fingers over the spines of books, imagining the stories inside. Marcus watched her from afar. She never asked for anything, yet gave everything: her trust, her kindness, her silence. And that silence began to speak louder to him than any words ever could. One night, during a business dinner at the mansion, one of the investors mocked her. "So this is your wife?" he sneered. "Interesting choice, Marcus." Before anyone could laugh, Marcus stood up, his voice like steel. "She's more than you'll ever understand." That night, Amara sat in his study and asked him, "Why did you defend me?" He looked at her, eyes filled with something she couldn't see but could feel. Because you deserve more than what I've given you. Their bond grew. Slowly, carefully. Marcus began to confide in her about his childhood, the loneliness of power, the pressure of wealth. And Amara listened, really listened. Not because she had to, but because she cared. But just as life began to feel like something real, the truth surfaced. Amara overheard two staff members talking. They mentioned how she had been bought, how she was part of a deal. Her heart shattered. It made sense now, the sudden marriage, the secrecy, the whispers. That evening, she confronted Marcus. "Did you buy me?" she asked, standing in the middle of the marble hallway, hands trembling. He couldn't lie. "Yes," he said, voice heavy with shame. "But it wasn't supposed to become this. You weren't supposed to matter. But you do." Tears streamed down her face. "You could have just told me the truth. I've had nothing my whole life. All I ever wanted was honesty." "I know," he said, stepping closer. "And I'm sorry." She packed her things, not much, just a small bag of clothes, and left. She didn't know where she was going. She just knew she couldn't stay. Days turned into weeks. Marcus searched everywhere, but found nothing. He realized how empty the house felt without her, how the sun didn't shine the same, how every room was just a room without her presence. Then one morning, he received a call. Amara had been found at a community center for the blind, volunteering, teaching others how to navigate life without sight. Even in her pain, she chose to give. He went to her. No bodyguards, no suits, just himself. "I didn't come to take you back," he said softly. "I came to ask for a second chance." She didn't speak right away. "I can't erase what I did," he continued, "but I can choose to be better. I want to be better for you." Her lips trembled. "I don't need your money, Marcus." "I never did." "I know," he said, "but I need your heart." This time, she didn't leave, and neither did he. Months later, they renewed their vows. No yacht, no guests, just the two of them under a tree in the garden she loved so much. He looked at her, eyes full of sincerity, not as a contract, not as a deal, but as a man who's fallen in love with the strongest woman he's ever known. She smiled, her sightless eyes glistening with tears. "Then lead the way. I'll follow." And this time, she wasn't blindfolded. She was free and loved. For real. Because in a world full of power, wealth, and lies, love, raw, honest love, was the one thing money couldn't buy.